Many entrepreneurs forget that agreements are for bad days. So if everything goes according to the plan, actually you don't need 90% of the provisions in this agreement. And this is the exact reason a negotiation of the contract could be quite demoralizing for the entrepreneurs, because you see all these bad scenarios and what they can do, how they can take back your shares and everything. But keep in mind that only 1 or 2 of them maximum will probably happen in a time. And to go over this, my strategy is that I ask investors that we can prepare the first draft, and I go to a lawyer that I trust, so that I know that these are not just bad intentions from the investor, but just industry standards that we can use, and we send those and we iterate over those. And actually investors prefer that because they save the cost for agreement preparation.
The negotiation of the shareholder agreement with investors is maybe more complex than people may think in the beginning. The principle of, at the end, having a fair agreement, balancing everybody's interests, is what you need to strive for. And therefore, what is fair, it depends really on a benchmark. What is industry benchmark, I think. So if the investors would come in, for example, with demands that would be above or beyond the benchmark, then the entrepreneur should push back and discuss and be knowledgeable, of course, but be able to also argument why that's too extreme, why it should be scaled down. It takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of time, and I think also the help of an advisor. So either a legal person who is very familiar with those kind of contracts, person who knows, what is a benchmark and what not. In our case, we did use advisors, definitely. We had a legal counsel, but we had also other advisors around us all the time, which was something we did since the beginning of the company. We didn't save on advice. And that would be my advice, not to save on advice. Mm-hmm.
So about the dilution issues, I try to agree with the board of directors on a valuation, on an acceptable valuation and acceptable dilution before we start fundraising. And usually investors, because they invested in many startups at different stages, they know what are the comparables and what could be the acceptable ones. I also do my own research on the internet, what should be the comparable valuations. And we usually base our first offer to the investor on these. And then there's always a negotiation margin on both sides.
The negotiation is always easier if you have more than one investor in front of you, because you can play on the valuation, you can play on the offer, you can play on the demand.
I would like the startups to be aware not to negotiate on everything. Come up with a negotiation plan. What are the 3 elements that you are not going to give up and that you really want to negotiate hard on? And what are you not going to negotiate hard on and that you're willing to give up? So I think we call that BATNA in negotiations, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Be very clear what your BATNA is and what you're going to walk away from. And please practice your negotiation.
I think the biggest pitfall is that the investors would ask evaluation quite early enough when we are still in the oral discussions. So when they send you back an agreement, it is going to come with 90 other terms. So actually, it's the entrepreneurs has to know that it's an overall package. It's not only valuation, but the other terms comes with it. My advice is never disclose a valuation without other terms. So there are 2 ways to go. Either you wait a term sheet offer from the investor, or you have a sort of term sheet with acceptable terms that are combined with that valuation. And if the investor would like to change the valuation or the other terms, then it's negotiated accordingly.
When negotiating with investors, one should be careful not to sign anything under pressure. So that's the rule number 1. Typically, there's a lot of pressure because money is running out and time is running out and investors are waiting. And so one could be tempted to go too fast and accept some clauses, which at the end, if accepted and written black on white, could be detrimental and very dangerous.
The other mistake is severely underestimating the funding needs of the company. And here I think, you should get outside help from people that have raised money before, from your peers or from investors, to really look at it critically and give you some practical advice that, as we say, you will always require more money and it will always take longer to raise.